April 1st is an important day for Provo. April 1st is the day that the pioneers first came into Provo in 1849. And it hasn't been celebrated recently, and so April 1st became the day that we are going to actually celebrate Founders Day. We did it right here in our little village and had a great program. My favorite part is the story the village tells. I mean, to understand this, you have to look at the early history of the Mormon people and how they were kicked out of virtually 4 different locations. They came to this place because they were tired of being harassed. So they came to a place where they had no neighbors. They came to a place where they were 1,500 miles from any civilization they'd ever known, and they had to build for themselves a civilization out of nothing. I mean, they had only what they brought with them or what they made. They only ate what they grew or what they killed. And as a result of that, they had to depend upon each other. They had to be able to work together. And they all kind of worked together to survive. One story I love about that is a story about a little gal that had, in her diary, she reported that her mother, that her neighbor came and said, "Ma, our neighbor wants to borrow our candle molds." And Ma said that was fine. And then she came back a little bit later and said, she wants to borrow some string for the candle molds. Well, yes, that's fine. Came back a little bit later and said, she wants to borrow some tallow for the candles. Tallow is beef fat. They didn't have wax for the most part. Okay, here's some tallow. And then she came back the 4th time and said, "Ma, they want to know if you could come and show them how to make candles." And that's kind of the way in which they had to survive. They had to share with each other the knowledge that they had. And that's my favorite part, is when people begin to put their arms around that concept of what maybe life must have been like here. We have some incredible artifacts. This little cabin here, John Turner built it in 1853 for his bride. And in that cabin they laughed and they loved and they prayed and they argued and they discussed and they ate and they had the first baby. In my mind, that cabin almost becomes sacred when you think of the lives of people that were lived in that. The same thing is true with the Hawes cabin behind us. So this place is just reeking with those kinds of stories as we recreate them. I think that's critical and important for people to understand that, to be awakened to that. That's why I love this job so much. I love my volunteer work, because it's so important to understand the heritage that we have and the incredible value that this place demonstrates that, to help us remember. It's hard for people to get their hands around just exactly how life was. For example, I usually have children come in and they look at the outhouse there, and the outhouse has 2 holes in it. So I say, "Why is there 2 holes in the outhouse?" They look at me and shake their head. Then I said, "Now supposing we hear a story about this. Amy lives in a cabin about that size, and it's about 7 o'clock at night on a cold February night, and she starts to cry. And her ma says, 'Ma,' and Ma says, 'Amy, what's the matter?' And Amy says, 'Ma, I gotta go real bad, but I'm scared.' Why is Amy scared? Number 1, the outhouse is about 100 feet from the cabin. Number 2, it's cold as pitch outside. Number 3, it's as black as the night. The only light they have is from the fireplace inside the cabin. Maybe a small candle, but she can't take that with her. It's raining. She hears the coyotes in the mountains screaming. Pa got a rattlesnake out there just about a month ago. There's snakes in the outhouse. Not only that, she was hearing the children in school talk about how Indians like to steal children. Does Amy have reason to be scared? Yeah, she does. So Amy's older sister Julie says, Julie, I gotta go too. I'll hold your hand and we'll both go. And then little Johnny, he's only 4, he says, wait for me, I'm scared too. And so Ma turns to Pa and says, Pa, I knew we should have built a 3-holer instead of a 2-holer. And I like that story because, most of us are so used to the convenience of our lives now. We can simply go next door of a house we live in. Wasn't like that back then. In fact, they didn't even have garbage back then. They had no paper to throw away. They used corn husks. And in the school, they used slate boards because paper came from back east and it was so darn expensive to have here. They wouldn't throw it away. They didn't throw away clothing, old clothing. They'd make rag rugs out of it. So all of this builds a story. And the thing that's really fun about this village is it's not a recreation. It's the real thing. This is the house that John Turner built. That is the house that the Hawes family built for Oliver. I find this place is incredibly intriguing. It's a passion for me, and I hope that people in the community can catch the vision of what they can learn here and how they can understand this past that is so important in our lives. We are who we are because of what they did. And so that's an important concept, I think, and one that I hope this village helps convey. The village will open officially for walk-in traffic on the Saturday before Memorial Day. And it'll open at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then it will be open every day thereafter except Sundays. It opens on Saturdays from 10 a.m. until 4 o'clock, and on Mondays from 5 to 8, and on Tuesdays through Fridays from 4 to 7. Now Saturday is going to be an especially important day because virtually every Saturday morning we're going to have interactive activities here. We'll have a blacksmith, we'll have a cooper, we'll have games for children, we'll have docents here so that when the children come, especially the children will come, they will be involved in the activities that would be typical in a village of this nature back in the 1849s, 1859s. So we're going to have a good time on Saturday mornings. We invite everybody to come then.